In today's video, I'm going to talk about my experience of identity theft. Last year, somebody walked into a bank and impersonated me and tried to take out a loan, and then went online and tried to apply for several other loans in my name. Luckily, they weren't successful, but that's partly because I've got some things in place to help protect myself. So I just wanted to share my experience and give some suggestions about what you might want to implement to reduce the risk of identity theft or sort of fraudulent use of your details. To try and make sure that it doesn't happen to you. Identity theft can happen to absolutely anyone, be it on a personal basis, a business basis, and figures suggest that up to 24% of people in the UK have had their identity stolen, and we've got one of the worst rates in Europe, and this type of crime is one of the fastest growing, particularly with so much moving online and people being able to access details. The consequences can be devastating. People have lost sort of hundreds of pounds up to thousands and thousands of pounds, and that's just purely from identity theft. When you take account some of the scams that people are now implementing, that figure will be much higher. So it's important to be alert and keep on top of your finances and look at exactly what's going in and out of your account. I mean, your identity is one of your most valuable assets. If you're into sort of the personal finance world, a lot of us have worked really hard to build up our credit rating, and that can just be destroyed within, minutes of somebody accessing your details and taking out credit in your name without your knowledge. So these criminals, and that is what they are, can trying to open bank accounts, try and get loans, credit cards, open mobile phone accounts in your name, order goods to a location that they are and not you, but use your details to pay for it. There's a real variety of ways that they can do this to try and gain financially for themselves at your detriment. There are things that you can do to look out for this activity on your account. Firstly, make sure that you shred any post or documentation with your details, your statements coming through the post, council tax, things like that, and don't just tear them up and put them into the recycling. Make sure that they're shredded and that they can be no longer legible, because people may be going through your rubbish. Secondly, tighten up your presence online. What have you posted on social media? What could people access about you online, combined with thinking about where you're putting your details, what kind of shops or services that you're putting things in. Could you have a separate account for online transactions, for example, where not all of your money is kept? And just really being mindful of who you share your details, where you publish them, and what you're doing with them. The next thing to do, which was invaluable to me, was monitor your credit report. You can now get them for free online. There's various different companies. I'll post in the description box below. But you can access your credit report and it will show exactly what searches have been made. That's both soft searches, so sort of behind the scenes, and then hard searches, which is when other credit agencies or lenders can see that your credit file has been searched. So, if you do apply for a credit card, that lender will search your credit file to see to check that you're registered to vote, to look at your credit history, how many other credit cards you've got, what mortgages you've got, and make a decision as to whether they want to lend. That will then result in a hard search so that other credit card companies could have a look at that. But what's really helpful is the soft searches as well. So I just renewed my car insurance recently. When you go through the broker there's a whole long list of all the different ones, and that's the soft search. So make sure that you're checking that credit report file. You can really helpfully get alerts, so you get an email or a text message when there's a change in your report. So make sure that you're on top of that and got access to your credit report and you're monitoring it. If you're moving house, make sure that you contact everyone to notify of the change of address, so your banks, your credit cards, everything that's important, make sure that you tell them. And I think it's probably worthwhile also paying for the service offered by Royal Mail, where they'll redirect your mail for a certain period of time after you've moved. That will reduce the risk of people that you don't know accessing your information. So that's some things that you can do to prevent, which is really helpful. I'll now just talk about my experience. So the way that I found out somebody had stolen my identity was that I'd actually got a letter through the post from a lending company asking for further information from me because they were struggling to confirm my identity. So I'm grateful that they sort of went through those checks, and these institutions are obliged to do that to a certain extent. So in terms of the action that I took, I contacted them straight away to advise them that I've not applied for the loan, that it wasn't me, and that all my details should be removed from their system. And secondly, went straight onto my credit file and could see the searches from, I think it was 7 different lending companies. It's not clear whether somebody went into the bank, which is what I was told over the phone, or just used sort of an online broker that searched the market. But whatever the case was, I contacted each of the firms who had performed a search in writing and advised them that it wasn't me and that they should note their systems and remove my details. I also contacted the FCA to advise them. I secondly reported it to the police. It wasn't necessarily a phone call. There's an online system that you can fill in the form and get a crime reference number in case anything substantial was to arise later down the line. So I had the crime number. I also contacted my bank and credit card provider to tell them about what had happened in case they needed to flag anything and to look out for suspicious activity. Luckily, there hadn't been anything else on my bank, but I just wanted to let them know so that they had that information. I had already luckily been set up for the credit report, so getting a notification when that changed. So I just put a reminder, which was every other day to begin with, to check my credit file to make sure that I was on top of searches. And now I do that at least once a month, if not more, just to double check, because the frightening thing is I don't know who this person was, how they got my details, what else that they've got, and what else they might try to do. So with that in mind, I also registered for a service provided by CFAS, which is the UK's fraud prevention service. And whilst not everyone is signed up to it, basically sort of a lot of reputable people are signed up to their system, and you can register for what's called protective registration. So that's just a flag on your file that somebody has tried to steal your identity or take out a fraudulent product, and it will just mean that there's more rigorous checks in place. So if I do need to apply for a credit card or a loan in the future, I might have to jump through a couple of additional hoops just to check my identity, which might be frustrating, but it's worth it if it's going to prevent somebody taking something out in my own name, which I don't know about. So that service lasts for a year initially, and I'm going to probably renew that. But like I said, I'm keeping on top of my credit file and looking at who's searching it, so I know exactly what activity is going on. So that was my experience. In terms of what you can do, I've already mentioned how you can minimise that risk, but also look out for some of the telltale signs. If you've lost an important document like your driving licence, your passport, something like that, be extra vigilant. You don't know who's got hold of those documents. Always have a look at your bank statements and your credit statements and see what transactions are there. Sometimes they can start by taking out small tiny amounts that you don't notice, and then we'll hit with bigger ones. So yeah, keep on top of every transaction, look at what you're doing. Similarly, monitor the post situation. Have you not received something which you're expecting, maybe from your bank or something like that? Who's intercepted that? And similarly, if you have got mail that just doesn't ring true, something from like debt collectors or applying for benefits or credit cards, so just bear in mind that it could be someone up to no good. So keep on top of your post as well. So that was my experience. Luckily, I wasn't financially damaged, but it just goes to show how easy it is. And I really hope that you just make sure that you have those safeguards in place. So keeping your financial information in a safe place, shredding it if you're disposing of it, keep on top of your credit file and your transactions on all of your statements so that you know exactly what's going on and you can spot at an early stage if there's something suspicious. And if it does happen to you, Action Fraud has got a really good website to direct you to how to report the crime and exactly what to do, and you can phone them as well if you need to discuss it with someone. But I hope you do implement these things to reduce the chance of it happening to you. You know, I don't know how you've come across this video. If it's happened to you, please share something in the comments, or if you've got any tips that I've maybe missed off or not considered, I'd be interested to hear it. It's absolutely a horrible thing to happen, and I wouldn't want anyone else to go through it. So yeah, I hope you find it useful, and I'll catch you in my next video. Thank you for watching.